Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting of the Cabinet Member for Climate Emergency Decision Day, taking place from the Walton Suite, Winchester Guildhall. The time is 2 p.m. I am Councillor Kelsey Lerney, Chairperson and Cabinet Member for Climate Emergency. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded to the Council's YouTube channel. Subtitles are available and advice on how to turn this on is set out on our website. If you are joining us online, please turn your camera and microphone off until your item, and can everyone please ensure mobile phones are on silent. In the unlikely event that it is necessary to evacuate the building, the fire alarm will sound. Please follow all the instructions given to you by our team. Turning to the agenda, does anyone present have any disclosures of interests to make? No, thank you very much. We have no members of the public wishing to participate today. We do have Councillor Horrell coming to speak on the item on the agenda. So I will invite her to speak after the introduction to the item. So moving on to the sole item on the agenda, item 4, phone payment system provider operator procurement and car park management considerations, DD 77. I have with me officers Campbell Williams and Andy Hickman to speak to this paper. Would you like to briefly introduce it?
Yes, of course. As you said, this paper covers two different items. One is our car parking phone payment system, which we currently have with Ringo, and the contract is due to end in November 2024, so November this year. So this report is seeking approval to go out and seek tenders and to enter into a new contract before the old one expires. That's the main purpose of the report, but it also considers two car parking management issues. One at the Brooks shopping centre underground car park, where the tenant has already changed the opening times and the closing times of this shopping centre. So they can do that under the lease. So they've chosen to do that in consultation with us. So this is bringing that in line with that change. So it will be a change from 7 p.m. till 6 p.m. And the other item is in relation to the Winchester Sport and Leisure Park. So the car parking arrangements there, whereby we have a 3-hour period for paid users of the leisure centre. That was part of the management of that car park alongside the operator's contract. And in consultation with everyone active, the current operator, they've sort of looked at usage and their programme and the management overall of that car park, and they've asked us to reduce that free period from 4 to 3 hours. So we're seeking approval to do that. So those two things, once if you give us approval to do that, we can then change the car parking orders in terms of the enforcement for those car parks. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. Hickman. Councillor Horrell, would you like to make your representation?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to speak this afternoon. This is a very interesting contract for the council to re-tender because clearly it's very popular. I was amazed at the 63% of payments using the online system. So to me, it actually meant that there were some key things that we want to ensure. So my comments, Chair, are really around can we include some of these elements as you put the tender documents together? Can we embed them? You may feel that some are more or less relevant, but if I share them with you, hopefully you can consider them. The provider carries a heavy burden of reputational risk for the council, because if you're new to the city, it's one of the first things you come across, actually, parking your car if you've travelled in that way rather than by public transport. And my question is, can we build into the procurement process any measures to assess the delivery of the companies pitching for the contract from other authorities in terms of reputational risk? For example, reliability of the service and connectivity. How is that judged? Because that's absolutely critical. Unlike Ringo in the last couple of days, that doesn't seem to want to work here in the city. you can get in online, but phone connectivity seems to be tricky. Can we ensure there is a good delivery of messaging for drivers to remind them? The whole process at the moment of reminding you you're about to expire on your ticket is good, but there will be innovation in the period of the contract. And what are we building in to make sure that the provider gives us the best deal on how those things progress? We also want to make sure, I'm sure this will be part of your brief, that there is a limited cost increase to customers for the use of the service. Can we, for example, specify an upper limit because of the way the system works at the moment? If that is the future construct, can we make sure that it's not just the drivers who are getting a huge increase in the percentage going to the provider? And am I correct in assuming we'll be seeking the benefit of the same provider across all of the car parks? Because obviously once you have whoever's system in your phone or whatever gadget you're carrying, having that one provider is crucial and really helpful. So just some thoughts about the elements that we want to make sure that the new contractor provides for us, and that level of consistency and quality that we would want, given that we have obviously a high proportion of visitors to the city. So you want them to feel that that's an easy way to access the parking here. A couple of final points on the broader issues around car parking rather than just the online contract. I heard at the recent Sport and Leisure Park board meeting about the car parking that was raised as one of the items. So I'm not surprised to see your proposal to reduce the time. I suppose the question that we just want to bear in mind is to ensure that genuine users of the Sport and Leisure Park, if there is some reason why they're there for longer, are not disadvantaged versus those who are clearly parking up and disappearing elsewhere in the city. So we just need to make sure that we triangulate that information with the Sport and Leisure Board, I think, to ensure that we're not, as I say, disadvantaging genuine users of the centre. And also, given that you're changing some times and things, I suppose my question to you, have you had any further consideration, given the continuing comments by businesses expressing concern about some of the charging late at night and weekends, etc., whether you would consider further looking at the charging policy for the evening and weekends as we move forward, given, as I say, that pressure has not gone away from representatives in the city. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Horrell. I think that's quite helpful. Turning to officers, can you confirm we'll just be looking at one provider across the whole system? So that was nodding yes, just for the purposes of the recording, as they always say in police stations. I think turning to the question about charges more generally, we do have charges under regular review and will, in line with that normal practice, be looking at charges as a whole throughout all times of the day and week, and making sure that we are balancing that correctly. Looking in particular, though, at our aspirations through the Winchester Movement Strategy around, improving air quality and reducing congestion, which continue to be, a big focus of what we're trying to do. So I'd like to thank Councillor Horrell for those comments, most of which I will take up in my observations on the paper. As she has mentioned, providing an excellent customer experience for those using our parking services is a priority for the way we operate our parking service. And the pay by phone system is an increasingly well used way for our customers to pay for parking, because they do find it easy and convenient, particularly with the opportunity to renew parking if you're running a bit late, and that those reminders that come forward are an important part of that service. I think it's important to say that one of the reasons why we do have high pay by phone usage is that the system also enables us to provide a business offer, which is useful for big park and ride customers such as the hospital and university. So we will continue to make phone payments an option, not a requirement, across our car parks, and physical parking machines will continue to be available. We are aware of the occasional issues with phone connectivity and so on, and I think it's important that we maintain those options, and recognise that not everybody does have a smartphone with which they can access these kind of systems. And although you can ring a phone number to do the same thing, I think people find that's a barrier too far compared to the simplicity of the conventional machine. Currently, we do not discriminate on charges with those, whether people are paying by cash, by card or by phone, although they all have different costs to the council. Clearly, up to this point, the phone system has been paid for by charging for reminders. I think people have got wise to that now and set alarms on their phone, for example, rather than paying for a text message to come through. And I think we do anticipate that there will be different charging systems that we're offered as part of this process, which we'll have to consider, particularly in terms of the overall cost of all the different ways that people pay to use our car parks. As mentioned, the phone technology is changing, and we do have a system coming in across the country which will require standardisation and connectivity of different phone apps, and we will want to keep on top of that, and look at how we enable people to pay with their favoured app rather than just the one that we're using to operate our pay by phone system. I would say on that the contract period we're proposing is not excessive, and will allow us to review that in a few years' time if that becomes necessary, rather than being tied to a particular provider in the long term. With respect to the Brooks car park, coming back to the importance of the customer experience, the change in opening hours has led to confusion around when the car park closes, and it is important that we fix that issue and avoid having to attend the centre to release locked in cars and customers. So I think that is just a straightforward, sensible change. As too is the request to reduce the free hours from 4 to 3 at the Winchester Sport and Leisure Park. It is based on experience and has come from the operator. As a regular user, I see how busy the car park is, even when the centre is relatively quiet. There is definitely a level of abuse going on, and I think if we can help deal with that, that's important, particularly as we have a cheap park and ride car park directly across the way, which is a very easy and pleasant walk to the town centre, or obviously you have the option of using the bus. So I think it is sensible for the council to agree this change to ensure the efficient operation of the leisure centre going forward. So we will take Councillor Horrell's comments into account when we look at the construction of the tender and what we're looking for. And with that, I will turn to the recommendations on the paper, which are recommendation 1, to delegate to the head of programme Place, in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Climate Emergency, to agree tender documents and to seek tenders for a new contract with a phone payment system provider. 2, that the contract be for 4 years with an opportunity for extension of 1 year. 3, to delegate to the head of programme Place in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Climate Emergency to enter into a contract with a successful bidder. 4, agree to change the Brooks car park chargeable hours from 8 AM to 7 PM to 8 AM to 6 PM to match the recently changed opening times of the shopping centre. And finally, 5, to agree to change the car park free period for users of paid leisure activities from 4 to 3 hours at the Winchester Sport and Leisure Park car park. Given the representations made, I am agreeing to those recommendations as laid out on the paper, and I will sign that now. I can get it out. And with that done, I will close the meeting, and thank you all for